Hello everyone, welcome back to, I nearly said a sonnet a day then, gosh, flashback, a speech a week. This is your hub of Shakespeare on YouTube and acting as well, indeed. My name is Pippa, I am your host. I always say host, I'm your guide through Shakespeare on this channel, and we are going to be looking at Hermione today. If you are new, massive warm welcome. Essentially, the A Speech a Week, this happens every time. The A Speech a Week project was begun kind of after COVID, during which I started something called a sonnet a day, where 6 out of 7 days of the week I read you a sonnet and talked you through it and guided you through it and talked about it, had a little bit of fun with it. And A Speech a Week was birthed from that as another way to kind of make Shakespeare accessible, help people understand what actors do when they approach Shakespeare, and just hone in your craft as an actor. And selfishly, that's why I did the projects to begin with, to keep my skills in check and hold myself accountable and do some creative stuff during a time when creativity was on the low down, on its way down or out because of COVID. So this week we're going to be looking at Hermione. What usually happens is that I will read you, I'm on the wrong page entirely. I will read you the segment that we are working on and we'll talk about it. We'll also translate it so that you can understand what is actually being said. However, I do really implore you, if you're new to Shakespeare, hi Ernest, welcome. Let me turn that light off behind me actually. If you are new to Shakespeare, let me shut my door as well. Let's do all of the changes. If you are new to Shakespeare, then what I implore you to do is allow it to wash over you. Okay, this is like one of my biggest things when it comes to doing a classical piece of theatre or approaching a text that maybe feels a bit foreign to you. When you listen to a piece of music, you don't sit there and try and analyze why the guitar is playing here and why the singer says that there and all of that stuff. You just kind of take it on and listen and see how you feel, see how it makes you feel, and you know, if it prompts anything in you. The same goes for Shakespeare. If you try and sit there and try and figure it out straight away and have this tension approaching it, you're not going to yield any decent results. Personally, that is my opinion as a working actor and as an acting coach. So as I read it, have a little listen, just sit back, see if there's, oh, I like that bit where she said that, or oh, that bit's a bit weird, what does that mean? Just flag it, gently acknowledge it, and then move along. And then we'll get to it. So, as I said, this is Hermione. We're doing Act 3, Scene 2 in Sicilia, a court of justice. And I'm not going to go too much into what's led up to this moment, but essentially Leontes is Hermione's husband. He's like kind of a big deal, king, really, you know, he's the top dog. He's the top dog. He's just gone a bit insane and a little bit paranoid and started accusing Hermione of cheating on her and also on him, and also being impregnated by his friend. Polixenes, I think it is. I forget now, but hey ho. And this is the court appearance. So Hermione's been kept in prison. She's just given birth to her daughter, her second child, and that baby has been taken away from her. So before we begin, it's very important, if you're going to do the speech, in fact, straight away, if you are 17 and you want to do this speech for a drama school audition, I would avoid it. Leave it, do something else that's a bit more in your age range and your realm of experience. You have to remember that she has been kept in prison. She was a queen. She's the daughter of a king as well. So she's not just, you know, some rags to riches Cinderella here. This is a well-spoken, eloquent young woman. And yes, I'm going to say young woman because remember, life expectancy back in those days was a lot lower than it is now. But she's given birth to 2 children. She had a great partnership with her husband. She was it. She was like, I was going to say Meghan Markle actually, but that is a bit of a rags to riches story, isn't it? But she's part of the royal family, and she's been kept in prison, given birth to a daughter that's been taken away from her, can't see her son, just because her husband suddenly got a bit paranoid. Yo, it's insane. And so at this point in the play, Leontes says, read the indictment. The officer reads what she has supposedly done. And, you know, what I'm sure is going on in Hermione's mind. What is happening? Kia ora. Hello, Raiden Warbound. Nice to see you. Welcome. So I'm going to just read it. As always, I'm sight reading it. I do pretty much know this, but I know an edit of it that I've been working on recently. So I'm not here to show you my amazing acting. This isn't an audition. This is a lifting off the page. This is a me getting it out there and articulating it for you so you can hear someone say it fresh. So let's get on with it, shall we? Marvellous. So the indictment's just been read, and Hermione responds thus. Since what I am to say must be but that which contradicts my accusation, and the testimony on my part no other, but what comes from myself, it shall scarce boot me to say, not guilty. Mine integrity, being counted falsehood, shall, as I express it, be so received. But thus, if powers divine behold our human actions as they do, I doubt not then but innocence shall make false accusation blush, and tyranny tremble at patience. You, my lord, best know, who least will seem to do so, my past life hath been as continent, as chaste, as true as I am now unhappy, which is more than history can pattern, though devised and played to take spectators. For behold me, a fellow of the royal bed, which owe a moiety of the throne, a great king's daughter, the mother of a hopeful prince, here standing to prate and talk for life and honour for who please to come and hear. For life, I prize it as I weigh grief, which I would spare. For honour, 'tis a derivative from me to mine, and only that I stand for. I appeal to your own conscience, sir. Before Polixenes came to your court, how I was in your grace, how merited to be so. Since he came with what encounter so uncurrent, I have strained to appear thus, if one jot beyond the bound of honour, or in act or will, that way inclining, hardened be the hearts of all who hear me, and my nearest of kin cry fie upon my grave. So, how are we feeling about that? Ernest, Raiden. I'm guessing that's your real name, Raiden. I don't know. What do we think? Any bits come up that are interesting? Any bits that are a bit weird? Any bits that were like, what does that mean? To be honest, that was a very flat reading from me. I'm not sure. I've just had a relaxing bath and a hair wash, so maybe I'm a little bit out the zone. But when I come to read it again, so at the end of the talk through about it, I will read it again and we can have a little bit more of a play around with it. That was very vanilla and very boring, what I just gave you. However, it's a brilliant speech, right? Was there any bits that did stand out despite my rather monotone reading? Let me know in the comments. Ryden. Ryden. Hello. Where are we reading from? We're reading from, well, I'm in the UK, but we're reading from, if you mean on the page, Act 3, Scene 2 of The Winter's Tale, line 19 onwards. I'm sure you found it. A quick Google search will find it. The first line is, since what I am to say must be but that which contradicts my accusation. Wonderful, wonderful. Let's have a little talk through it then. So, since what I am to say must be but that. So we're going to translate it and just talk about, in fact, let's talk about it generally at the moment. For me, at the beginning, I feel like she's a bit stumped. A bit like, I don't even know, like, can you imagine being in a prison cell? There's no clocks. And remember, the prison cells back in those days were disgustingly dirty, rats, piss, poop, God knows what around. She's gone from living the life of luxury as a queen, straight thrown into that, probably not really even understanding fully what's going on, whilst being heavily pregnant, then giving birth, again back in those days, no epidural, none of that stuff going down, and then put in this limelight to be accused of something that absolutely is against her integrity. I'm just going to open my windows. I've got a little tickly cough because I put some deep heat on. 1 second. Just open it a little bit. I closed them because we live near a garage now, and it's not open very often. When it is, the guys that live here are really loud Yorkshiremen, so they're proper like, talking like this all the time, and it's very I couldn't quite concentrate earlier, so there we are. Deep heat happening. So, all of that being said, I really feel like that beginning, if we just look at it from a bird's eye view, I feel like that beginning, there is a bit of a, I'm realizing I'm supposed to talk here, and I'm gonna say not guilty. You clearly think I'm guilty for me to have gone through all the shizzle I've gone through just now. Do you know what I mean? Ernest, great, here we go, says she seems very reserved. Considering the ordeal she has just endured, she's on the high road. I would be angry and lashing out, right? However, this is a woman who has just given birth without any medication. So she probably has some, the way I always talk about Hermione is that there is some, excuse my mess, this is my current desk set up with all my sheet music on it. There's gonna be some kind of, we've talked about this in the sonnets as well before, but like this kind of gut heavy feeling, like, and I think women, it's easy for you to understand what I'm saying here, but with periods and sexual health and all of that sort of stuff, like I think she's gonna feel exhausted, and there's gonna be some kind of grounded, gritty, gutsy voice coming out here. But at the moment, maybe at the beginning, I think it's maybe exhausting her a little bit. Act 3, Scene 2, Winter's Tale. Just Google it, Raiden. You'll find it. Raiden, sorry, you'll find it. If you Google, since what I am to say must be but that, Hermione, Winter's Tale speech, it will probably come up, my dear. And you'll have it in no time. So I feel like there is some sort of, just drain. When you feel tired, we kind of go like this physically. Or it's like, oh, I'm exhausted. I feel like there's this kind of pull on her down. And of course, considering the childbirth situation, it's, visceral, Ernest. I love that word. Love that word. So I think there's exactly what you're saying. She's probably being quite reserved and composed, but also that might not be a choice at the beginning. That might be sheer exhaustion and bewilderment. Do you know? When you're still processing something, you're like, sorry, say that again. And then when you hear it again, it starts to sink in, and then everything kind of starts coming out. I think that's what's happening in this speech. So let's work through it. I just wanted to talk about that beginning a little bit, because I think I know what you mean. I'd be ranting and raving like, are you freaking crazy? But she doesn't. She's a queen. Let's remember that. So, since what I am to say must be but that, which contradicts my accusation. So she's saying, since what I am about to say is gonna be that which contradicts what you're saying, my accusation. Her accusation is that she's cheated on her husband, she's conspired against him to have him killed, she's absolute bitch. That's what she's saying here. I hate to say this, but I thought of Ned Stark wrongly accused and in prison. Who's Ned Stark? I feel like I should know that reference. Let me quickly Google. Oh, Game of Thrones. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, I'm not too au fait with Game of Thrones. I need to do some more research on it. Yeah, okay. But it's that kind of era and that kind of probably prison. I mean, I haven't seen it, but probably that kind of prison setup that he'd be in, with an inherent nobility. Lovely. And is there anyone better than Sean Bean that can do that? Oh, if you haven't seen them, by the way, Icebreaker? No, Stormbreaker? No. The Train. There's a series with Sean Bean in it that's about the train. You should check it out. Anyway, Ryden is so new to Shakespeare. Bear with me, please. Sure, Ryden. Always watch these back if you need help, and go through my sonnet a days, because they're a great introduction to Shakespeare, and understanding like the similar sort of devices and techniques and imagery he uses throughout his pieces. But we do just kind of, this is really casual, Ryden. It's really, we're both learning together. Just enjoy the process and see what comes up for you, and stay true to your realizations and your thoughts as you go through this. So yes, translating then, since what I am to say, one of my acting students keeps adding about in there, and I keep having to say, don't do it, and now I'm doing it. Snowpiercer, yeah. Not the best series, but entertaining. And I mean, there was lots to admire in it. I did love it. Good. Yeah, it's growing with me, actually enjoying it. Good, Ryden. Since what I am to say must be but that which contradicts my accusation. It must be but that, it's going to be that, which contradicts my accusation. And the testimony on my part, before we go any further, the language she's using is very formal. She's very socially adept, I believe. And I think that's coming through how she's speaking here. Despite being exhausted, despite having just given birth to a child and being accused by the man you loved of adultery and treason, she is stepping up to the lawyerly situation she is in. Must be but that which contradicts my accusation. She, it's very formal. She goes on even further. And the testimony, she knows now she's probably twigged, I've got to give a testimony about as evidence, as my testimony. She's being very formal and she's stepping up to the bar regardless of all of that. Her strength is astonishing. And this is why I love her. So yes, the testimony on my part, no other but what comes from myself. So my defense, the testimony on my part, so my defense, the testimony for me is coming from myself and no one else. Also, just because you're new here, Ryden, I normally would say when you're translating Shakespeare, really try and be very strict with it. But because we're in a talky setting, I don't skim over it, but I don't spend as much time doing this. If I was doing this speech, I would translate it word for word and look up exactly any word I don't understand specifically. Don't do this no fear Shakespeare stuff. Don't get a general gist from another like schmoop or something. Do the work yourself and look up the words individually, because you're going to have a much clearer take on it if you do that. That's a general Shakespeare tip for anyone at all. Ernest says she is confident in her honour. She knows if justice is served, she will be exonerated. Yes, there's a lovely chunk that we get to where I think that really comes through. And Ernest says, but will justice be served? I'm assuming you finished the play, Ernest. You tell me. Maybe, but I don't think it has. So yes, and the testimony from my part, no other but what comes from myself. It shall scarce boot me to say not guilty. So scarce boot me is an interesting way to say this, isn't it? So let's look up scarce. Insufficient for the demand. Scarcely. It's not enough, Boot, I remember looking this up ages ago when I was working on it, and I was like, is there a phrase today, scarce boot me? I don't know if there was, but if you boot something, you kind of kick it off, don't you? A hard kick, I'm just looking it up now, or you start a computer, so reboot. And where else? I think there was is it this one? And to boot is a phrase as well, isn't it? As well, in addition. Oh, I thought there was like an italic. No, it doesn't say source, unknown origin, bootstrap sense. No, okay, I think I'm thinking of a different word. But anyway, what do we think that means? It shall scarce boot me to say, it shall hardly kick me to say, it shall hardly prompt me to say, not guilty. Like, it's not going to surprise you that I'm going to say not guilty, because what I am about to say is going to contradict everything that you've just said. The testimony is only coming from myself, so it's obvious I am going to say not guilty. There's a very brief Pippa ad-lib of that section. Ryden says, that's fine. I was doing that too, like yesterday with the word dearth. Yeah, dearth, great Shakespeare word. Yeah, sounds legit. Good. So that's it. That's the first sentence. And in some editions, I believe there's actually a colon after not guilty. But I think a full stop works nicer there. It shall scarce boot me to say not guilty. She's given her plea. And when you give your plea, that's normally the end of the proceedings. But here she is at the beginning, standing up and saying, well, since I'm meant to say something and I'm the only one lawyering for me, I'm going to say not guilty. Then nothing is said. No one interrupts her. She goes on. Let me have a sip of my tea. And I love this bit. Here she says, mine integrity, being counted falsehood, shall, as I express it, be so received. So let's translate that bit. That's it, Ernest. Won't surprise anyone. Exactly. It's not It's quite apparent. If you look at me and my situation, I'm going to say not guilty. I've got a real tickle in my throat from this sneezing. Deep. Forgive me. And actually, I noticed as I said it, I said something, behold our human actions. It's because I was going to have a little cough from that. I'm still injured. I've got an injury. I'm falling apart, guys. I'm falling apart. So mine integrity being counted falsehood shall, as I express it, be so received. But thus. So, thank you. Bless you. My integrity. What's integrity? Integrity is your morals, your values, your honor. She's saying here, my integrity, my honor, my values, who I am, being counted falsehood, and again, past tense, being counted falsehood, or present tense as well, being decided false, being counted, being received false, wrong, untrue, immoral, corrupt, shall, as I express it, so this is a lovely way of saying, as I'm saying it, be so received. Be so received. You're gonna say it. You're gonna decide already that mine integrity is false because it's already been counted as falsehood. Do you see? And one thing that helps writing as well, I know you've been seeing some of my other stuff. I need to get back to some of your comments. Working backwards can help sometimes with sentences as well. So be so received. You will receive, as I say it, the falsehood of mine integrity. Do you see, I'm kind of working it backwards, but it also helps, I think doing that helps you like kind of figure out the points in the sentence and the thoughts where you need to express more, well, just really get that meaning through more so. But we'll go into that. You'll probably see me do it later on in the speech. So that, and then in this edition, we've got another full stop. But again, I have seen it with colons and semicolons. So maybe there's opportunity for more of a drive through here. But I personally like that she's maybe a bit stumped, you know? And that adds to the fresh minting. Love that phrase. Thank you, Chris Donnelly. Of the speech and the situation as well. You know, I've not given birth, but I can imagine it's a trauma, isn't it? The trauma of that, plus the trauma of being absolutely cast aside by your society, your whole world, everything you know to be true, to quote a contemporary play, is not true anymore. I think it's so important to get that vulnerability and the harshness and the realization of her circumstances through. And I did not give you that in my reading, but we'll see what happens next time. But thus, if powers divine behold our human actions as they do, love this bit as well, I love it all, as they do, so, but thus, except this, but this, if powers divine, she goes to a bigger world now. She opens up the realm to gods and the fact that we are mere mortals on this planet. And remember, back in those days, the idea of heaven and hell and God and the devil and monsters and angels carried a heck of a lot more weight. And remember as well, back in these days, the divine rights of kings was a thing. If you were king, you were appointed by God. You know, you had some sort of holy connection with the Lord that had bestowed this beautiful, you know, thing on you, this crown on you. And maybe she doesn't believe that, and Leontes doesn't believe that, but of the time, that was still like in the air, that was in the mix. I think that kind of maybe, well, yeah, as assassinations would happen and things, that kind of changed it a bit, but still. But thus, if power's divine, so divine as well, it's not if something's divine in modern terms, we always think, oh, it's divine, it's classy, it's, you know, diamonds or something. But divinity is blessed from God. So remember that. If power's divine, if gods Behold our human actions. So again, remember the language and see the language here. Behold. You behold a child. You behold someone, I think, in a admirable state. I've just hung my towels up and they're just falling off my Juliet balcony. Hilarious. They're fine. I'll leave them there. If you behold something, and she uses that word again for behold me, a fellow of the royal bed, yada, yada, yada. So it's an interesting choice of word. If these gods behold our human actions, look at the pronouns now as well, she's bringing everyone in. It's not just her and Leontes in this court scene, it's the reader. It's the court, it's the jury, it's society, it's other people around. All her waiting women as well are behind her. So Paulina and all her girlfriends. Okay? She brings everyone in now. This is where she's such a good, powerful orator. She's saying here, if they watch us and look at our human actions as they do, and the sassy part of me wants to be like, as they do, by the way, but actually I think she's just gently reminding, probably, as they do, I doubt not then, but innocence shall make false accusation tremble, blush, and tyranny tremble at patience. So she's saying that her faith, she's kind of gone from this hopeless, look, no matter what I say, you're going to believe me guilty. The kind of acknowledgement of that hopelessness of her situation. And then she's gone on to the bigger picture. Almost maybe, and again, this is up for interpretation, maybe she's comforting herself here. But it's okay because I know the gods know my integrity. The gods look at our actions because they do. They're gods. That's what they do. And I don't doubt that they are going to see the truth. And I love the way she says this as well. As they do, I doubt not then. Da-dun, dun, dun. It's a nice rhythm in the text. I doubt not then, but innocence shall make false accusation blush. And this is something really, really important to pick on as well. Ernesta says, but thus, if powers divine behold our human actions as they do, reminded me of Greek tragedy. The gods looking down on human interactions. Exactly. And she talks later on about theatre. History is played to take spectators. The idea of us reenacting history and all of that. So exactly what you're saying, Ernest. She's touching on all of this. She's a well-versed woman. She's an intellectual. And she's just a brilliant, divine woman. So yes, I doubt not then. So this is what I was going to say. But innocence shall make false accusation blush. If you blush, you're embarrassed, or embarrassment, isn't it? A blush isn't really that harsh. It's quite a soft way to, if you were wrong about something, you might blush, or you might get a bit sweaty. You might be like, oh God, yeah, I really messed that up, didn't I? She doesn't say, I doubt not then, but innocence shall make false accusation hanging shame. She doesn't say, or make false accusation wish they were never born. She doesn't say, it will make false accusation weep woefully on their choices or whatever. She says blush. And this speaks frickin' volumes for her integrity and who she is. Despite her situation, I do believe she really is still hoping Leontes loves her and that she still loves him despite all of this. I think the latter is more important, that she still loves him. She's got such honor and integrity. That's, there's a superhuman element to this play. And I won't spoil the end if you haven't said it, but, Hermione dies through grief from a broken heart. But at the end, there's some other stuff that goes on, and it's interesting. I do feel like she's almost this Captain America, purity, honorable, cannot be swayed, good person. Okay? So again, she doesn't let her anger through here. She doesn't say, it's going to make it false accusation weep. She says false accusation, so inaccurate accusation. Well, the dies bit, that's in this scene pretty much. So like, she faints in this scene, doesn't she? But there's more to it. There's a hell of a lot more to it. Yeah, I know, it's tragic. Well, why Hermione go back? Spoiler alert. So again, she chooses the word blush and not weep or die or regret. She chooses blush. Then she goes on, and tyranny, if something is tyrannous, like even saying that word tyranny, it's got like I feel like it's got a metallic taste to it. I don't know why, but that's my instinct. That's what comes up for me. Tyranny, it's overpowering of something, like corruption, disgrace, violence. Tyranny, tremble at patience. Tyranny, this ultimate warrior of oppression, trembling at patience. And again, to be patient means to be patient. You need to learn to articulate that more. In fact, let's look up patient. So this is something you'll see riding. I always look up words with you just to help us all like refathom what it means and really get it into our systems. The capacity to accept or tolerate delay, problems, or suffering without becoming annoyed or anxious. And I think that's the word I was looking for. She is suffering here, but she is remaining patient. Throughout the scene, maybe not so much. And in the latter chunk of this speech, which j'adore, which I love, which we'll get into in the next few weeks, I think she is getting more dismissive, and it's a beautiful arc, and it's stuff to remember. If you pluck out some of these speeches, remember the circumstances for which these speeches are spoken in your audition, in your monologue, in whatever situation you're doing it in. Tyranny, tremble at patience. So the idea of tyranny trembling, she's really not contradicting, but undermining tyranny and all these other things. Does that make sense? Undermining, I'm not sure that's the right word. Tyranny, tremble, Ernest, brilliant. Made me think of a bully being exposed, or a statue with clay feet, not quite as intimidating as originally thought. Yes. And so what she's saying in that chunk is, if the gods look at our human actions, which they do, I doubt not then that innocence shall make false. So my innocence, or innocence of the situation, she's not even getting personal really here. She is being quite general here. She's saying, look, the gods will make the decision and see that innocence is going to make this false accusation blush, and tyranny, this frightful bully, realize it's just an insecure little boy. Do you see? Really interesting. Carrying on, and now she gets personal. Now she brings it to Leontes. So in my first reading as well, I was just looking at the camera. Usually I don't actually do that, but I did for this one. Don't know why, as I said, don't know why. Just went with it. I think that you've got to be aware of who she's talking to when in this scene as well. It's all very well she's talking to Leontes, but actually there is an officer there. There is someone else who's dragged her out. There's a guard there who maybe kicked her when she was down. All of her waiting women are behind her, plus the court, and these are people that she probably knows, that she's socialized with, that she was friends with. And yet here they are all standing her on trial for some things that she never did. So again, all of this going through her brain, man. So this is where she brings it back to Leontes, I think. You, my lord. It's brilliant. And again, you. I like that. Straight onto him. You, my lord, best know, who least will seem to do so. So what she's saying there, you, my lord, you, my husband, my lord. She's using a formal address of him. She doesn't say you, Leontes. She says you, my lord. She's trying to reiterate the fact that he's her lord. He's her husband. He's a lord. He's a big deal. Best know, dash, who least will seem to do so. So nice afterthought here. You, my lord, best know. And again, if there's a part that you can take out, try taking it out. So we could remove the who least will seem to do so. That's a bit of Hermione coming through and interjecting in her own thoughts there, I think. It could have gone, you, my lord, best know my past life hath been as continent, as chaste, as true. But it doesn't. Shakespeare's added in this extra bit. You, my lord, best know, who least will seem to do so, my past life. It's almost in brackets. So bear that in mind and make sure you make something of that. I think there's her bewilderment there. Like, how can you not see that I would never do this to you? you know, she's trying to remind him, you know, that my life, I've always been continent. I've been chaste. If you're chaste, you're like withdrawing from sex. But what I think she's saying there is, I've been loyal to you and you alone. As true. Again, she's reiterating here, as I am now unhappy, as she is now unhappy. And so again, we have to be able to see her being unhappy for that to hit home. This is a really difficult speech and a really great gift of a speech for someone to perform, because you get to go through all the complexities of this situation that you're in. It's a good challenge, really good challenge. So you, my lord, best know, who least will seem to do so, my past life. And again, my past life, because right now she's being very specific still, and Shakespeare's being very specific still. In this moment, I am not that woman. So she says, my past life hath been as continent, as chaste, as true as I am now unhappy. Just for time, I'm not going to look up continent with you, but go and do it right now if you don't know what that means. Ernest says there are several NRCs, so non-restrictive clauses, in this passage. Ooh, they could be extracted and the sentence could still work. Interesting. I don't recall this in other passages. Brilliant. And it's absolutely there. And I think in some of the sonnets as well, it's there too. But also, like, it's not in quite a lot of the other passages, because I don't think we've done a passage yet that is as, well, I was about to say Lady Macbeth, actually, which actually I think I took off because I want to redo it. Because there's so much more to unpack in that. She's so raw. And don't get me wrong, a lot of Shakespeare's characters are raw. In fact, most of them are. However, we've often on the speech of week, so coming back to this, looked at more comedy, lighter-hearted ones and maybe not gone into as much depth. But they are throughout Shakespeare, and where you can see them, I think it says a lot, again, about the character's situation, who they are. I'm just trying to think of an example. I don't know why I'm thinking of Viola. I feel like there's one. If I ever want to find that bit. No. And I think it also adds to her exhaustion a little bit. And she's speaking her mind, you know, every Shakespeare character speaks their mind immediately. But I think she's really, who least will seem to, it seems like it's this hopelessness, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? I'm really trying to find Viola now. I swear there's one in, it's not coming up. It's not coming up. I keep scanning past it, I think. I'm not finding it. I'll have a think to find an example. But yeah, interesting you say that, Ernest. And if that's, yeah, I'm thinking there must be some, but I can't find it. So obviously it is a bit more abnormal. And I think it is a bit more human because we do that. And often with Shakespeare, you have to think on the line. This is something that I say all the time. You have to think and say it at the same time. There's no room for, in Shakespeare, which is what a lot of contemporary acting is. It's this whole like looking cool and looking busy, not really. With Shakespeare, the characters think it and go with it. And remember, of that time, I think that's the way life would have been more. You'd think and speak and then have to deal with the repercussions of your actions afterwards. And it says, it belays that she is thinking as she is speaking. Extemporaneous. Yes. Never miss a chance to use extemporaneous. Absolutely. I need to use it more often, actually. But yeah, exactly what you're saying. In a nutshell, I think that's what we were trying to get at here. It feels like it's fresher. It feels like she's really fumbling here. And just, great. So, moving on, or we'll be here all day. You, my Lord, best know, Shakespeare, as I am now unhappy. And then I've got a colon here. Which is more than history can pattern? Generally, semicolons and colons, I think, are like another kind of prompt. I feel like, you know, on Mario Kart, you go over like, or in like some games, there's like a ramp or like the stripy things that speed you up even more. I feel like a semicolon and a colon generally in Shakespeare are that sort of like quick push through, again, another drive through, another thing that I'm thinking of, and that kind of action. So I think what she's saying here, again, it shows the extemporaneous behavior that way of speaking that she's going through here. As I am now unhappy, which, by the way, is more than I can bear. You know, it's more than, but she didn't say more than I can bear. She says more than history can pattern. If you pattern something, there's a regularity. History has regularities of unhappy people and unhappy times, barbaric times, wars, battles, conflicts, right? That's what she's saying here. I am as unhappy as I am as chaste as true as I was in my past life when I was married to you and we were a family. I'm now unhappy. As unhappy. I'm more unhappy, not as unhappy, which is more than history can pattern. So she's talking about the weight of her truth and her constancy in her marriage. Then she's talking about how that she was that good, that true, that she's now that much unhappy, which is more than history can pattern. She's again, lovely, brilliant, beautiful, wonderful, marvelous rhetoric here from Shakespeare. Rule of three, he does it quite often. She's gone, you know, I was that good and now I'm that bad, and that's more than this. So again, it's beautiful writing, which is more than history can pattern, though devised and played to take spectators. And I think that's a full stop. No, we got a colon again there, semicolon in my edition here. So, which is more than history can pattern, though devised and played to take spectators. So again, I think this is an interesting one. I was talking to one of my students about this the other day, or the other week when we were working on this speech. It's more than history can pattern, though devised and played to take spectators. So history in our current time, in our setting, is devised like a play. We devise it, we make it up, or a script, and played to take spectators. It's created and performed to have an audience. There you go. There's the translation for that bit. For behold me, and she's talking about all of this in her situation now. For behold me, just like the gods, the powers divine, behold our human actions. For behold me. And then I think she kind of goes into this kind of, well, this isn't an option, this kind of theatrical realization that she's on stage. She is a character in a play almost, and the spectators are all around her. Really lovely writing. And yes, Ryden says that's some good writing. Absolutely. Exercising self-retracting, retracing, interesting word. Oh, restraint. Exercising self-restraint, interesting word, continent. Yeah. Continent? Is that what you mean? Continent? Remind me. Retype if you need to. But well done. Exactly. She's exercising this self-restraint here for sure, I think. And so again, this semicolon, play to take spectators, semicolon. For behold me. These are afterthoughts. No, not afterthoughts. They're kind of pre-thoughts, if that makes sense. Because like I say, Shakespeare wants you to think of the line on the line, because that's what you do. You think and you speak. And again, she's thinking and speaking even quicker here now. I think she's galloping a pace more, whereas at the beginning, this is why I prefer having full stops at the end of the sentences at the start. She's figuring it out. And absolutely, she's still figuring it out. Always are Shakespeare's characters figuring stuff out as they go. But I think her thought process is coming a bit thicker and faster here. So good. For behold me, I read as look at me, see me. Exactly. I also kind of feel like, and again, choices here, Ernest. I kind of think that, you know, you behold a baby, I think. And like I said, something up there. So I kind of also feel like she might be saying to Leontes, behold me like you used to, perhaps. But absolutely. And I think she is getting more theatrical now, and the awareness of her situation is broadening. There, I do think that more so than what I just said is the right option. But again, with Shakespeare, healthy, happy little reminder, there is no right or wrong. Your interpretation is valid as long as it's true to the text and your character. Very good. For behold me. And then she starts listing the character traits that her character has, I think. A fellow of the royal bed. So that means I slept with the king. I slept in the same bed as the king. I was a queen. And again, she doesn't say the queen of the royal bed. She's being very similar to in Julius Caesar, Mark Antony and Brutus's whole wonderful scene about at the funeral of Caesar. She's not bigging herself up at any point here. This is how clever Shakespeare is. He's being so specific with his choice of words that he's giving his characters. It means the character is being so specific with the choice of words. A fellow. So she says that we're on the same level. We slept in the same bed. And remember, looking back to Macbeth and everything, Duncan was murdered in his sleep. When you're asleep, you are absolutely defenseless. And so I think she's highlighting that she was trustworthy enough to be in the same bed as the king. A fellow of the royal bed, which, again, another kind of, it's a comma, not a colon, but still, which owe a moiety of the throne. So a moiety is the parts of something. And again, owe a moiety. It's such a lovely, I love that section. Which owe a moiety to the throne. There's lots of lovely lip roundings there, which owe a moiety to the throne. You can't skim over that line because otherwise it doesn't make sense. Which owe a moiety to the throne. What? Which owe a moiety to the throne. To be a fellow of the royal bed means you are the second half of the royal proceedings. Kings go with queens, okay? They're two parts of the same. And that's what she's saying there. And again, owe a moiety to the throne. I like that as well. Perhaps that's an afterthought for me there. I've not thought about it. Maybe she's saying she owes to the throne or that the throne owes her. I don't know. Think about it. Which owe a moiety of the throne. Which owe a moiety. In fact, let's look up owe. I'm intrigued now. And I don't think she means it like, but does she mean maybe like after repay? Yeah, an obligation to pay something. So she's saying which owe a moiety to the throne. I owe my other half to the throne. I think what she's saying here is that it's her life, it's her duty. Again, she's highlighting her integrity here. God, Hermione, she's such a babe. Love her. But then there's more than that. She wasn't just a queen. She says, a fellow of the royal bed, which owe a moiety of the throne. A great king's daughter, as I touched on earlier, she was a child of a king. She's been grown up in this situation. She knows her place. And then this bit I actually said wrong. I said the mother of a hopeful prince. It's actually the mother to a hopeful prince. The mother to a hopeful prince. So she's listing all of the facets of her as a woman and her relationship to the court and, the divinity of being a royal at this time, and a mother to the next king. She's bringing all of this up to remind them who she is. But also she's doing it in a way that I think, like I say, she is kind of saying like, well, behold me, look at me. I'm this character now. The woman of I married you, I slept in your bed, I was the daughter of a king, I was the mother to a hopeful prince. Here I am standing to talk to whoever wants to come and hear. And again, I would be more inclined to make this quite sassy, but I do think that sass should come a little bit later on in the scene, but still. It's lovely, it's lovely. Does all of that make sense? I feel like we're whizzing through it, but yeah, I want to keep driving through it really. So, for behold me, a fellow of the royal bed, which owe a moiety to the throne, a great king's daughter, the mother of a hopeful prince, here standing to prate and talk for life and honour, for who please to come and hear. She's reminding them of the situation. Ryder says, makes sense, good. I also kind of thought you were saying that Hermione's like shouting out here, make it make sense, because I think she is. Make it make sense. I married you. My dad was a king. Our son will be a king. Why would I do this? Make it make sense. Do you see? So interesting. And then it goes on to the next full stop is here. So again, this is another lovely long section where she's galloping through. I do keep saying galloping apace lately on these lines, as I've noticed, but it's a lovely little nod to Shakespeare, isn't it? So yeah, I'm the fellow of a royal bed, which I'm always throne, a great king's daughter, the mother of a hopeful prince. Here standing to prate and talk. If you prate, let's look up prate. It's a brilliant word. She does, and again, she doesn't just say, here standing to talk to who please come to hear, to talk of life and honour. She says prate and talk. So if someone prates, this is, yeah, here it is, perfect. Talk foolishly or at tedious length about something. And like I said, they could have interrupted her after she's given her verdict. Not her verdict, sorry, her, oh, I said it earlier, what's the word? Not guilty, her plea. And she doesn't. She doesn't just leave it and go, oh, is the audio going funny? Can you hear me all right? Turn my Bluetooth off, it shouldn't be on. So I think she starts expecting that to be all she says. Since what I am saying must be but that which contradicts my accusation and the testimony on my part, no other but what comes from myself, it shall scarce beat me to say not guilty. Oh, no one says anything. Prattle, yes, Ernest, exactly. Tedious, mundane. She's not. But yet they're not interrupting her. They're not saying, okay, you said not guilty, we'll take you off to have your sentencing finalised. They're letting her prate and talk. And she probably, you know, again, she's just said who she is, and now she's just having to freaking ad-lib in front of all these people who are not necessarily beneath her, but, you know, but beneath her, actually, in terms of that hierarchy. And it's lovely. I love it. I love that it could say, here standing to talk for life and honour for who please to come and hear. But it doesn't. It says, here standing to prate and talk for life and honour for who please to come and hear. Do you see how I ride the rhythm there? I'll do it more. I'll do it better next time. Not better, but like I'll add more colour into it. Leaving her with an uncomfortable silence that she has to fill. Exactly. You know? Now prate makes sense. Brilliant. I hope you can hear me, Ryden. I think everything's okay for everyone else. I know I keep moving forward and further away from my screen, but still. Should be fine. Nothing's flagged up my end, but I hope you can hear me. Brilliant. So again, and for who please to come and hear. It's lovely, lovely way of saying it. For who please to come and hear. For whoever feels like coming in, whoever feels like rocking in, they can come and just listen to me, can they? And again, that's my interpretation, to be a bit more like, but I do think as an actor doing this scene, working on it fairly recently, I think you have to rein some of that in. Definitely at this point, definitely. Or I would anyway, if I was doing it properly. This is proper, but you know what I mean. And then she goes on, she's had to talk about life and honour. So she's being sentenced potentially to die, and obviously they're talking about life in terms of murdering the king and everything. So then she goes on that. So that prompts her next thought. For life, if you want me to prate and talk about life and honour, I will. For life, I prize it as I weigh grief, which I would spare. It's so lovely. I prize it. She sends us down the garden path a little bit here. She doesn't go, for life, I would spare it. She says, life, I prize it as I weigh grief, which I would spare. I hold it, I behold it, I love it, I adore it as much as I weigh grief. And I talked to you about this kind of pressing feeling down on the floor, to the floor with her, through the floor with Hermione. There's a grief that only a woman can feel in having your child stripped away from you and the other one potentially murdered. You know? Brutal. Which I would spare. She has to reiterate that. I love it. I love this bit. For life, I prize it as I weigh grief, which I would spare. For honour, and just for the record, for honour as well. So yeah, which I would spare. Oh, which I would spare, by the way, which I would rather not have. I'd rather not have that right now. For honour, 'Tis a derivative from me to mine. So what that means, if something's a derivative from me to mine, she's talking about her children. She wants to redeem her honor. She doesn't care at this point if she lives or dies. She wants her honor to be cleared so that it passes on to her children, so her children can live an honorable life. It's a derivative from me to mine. Mine, your children, her children. Me to mine, and only that I stand for. Literally stand, but also stand in the sense of in the court. You stand in court, don't you? Absolutely. And I love that. Only that I stand for. I'm only standing here now praising and talking for you because I want to clear my honor for my children. Again, can we just have a minute for how heroic she is? I love her. Full stop. And then we've got an appeal here. Again, an appeal, that's something that happens in court proceedings and trials and everything like that. I think, not that I really know, just watch a lot of crime drama, you know. I appeal to your own conscience, sir. And so again, look at who she's talking to and addressing. Your own conscience, sir. She's back to Leontes, maybe, or maybe the officer. But it's up to you to decide. And in fact, it is Leontes. I appeal to your own conscience, sir, before Polixenes came to your court. This is the king's court. So she's gone from this, but look at me. I'm, you know, this actor on stage. I've been told to pray and talk for life and honor for anyone who wants to come and hear me. For life, I don't want it. For honor, I will stand for my children. Husband, ex-husband. In fact, she doesn't say my lord now. She just says sir. She probably has not called him sir in a long, long time. And yet here she is. I appeal to your own conscience, sir. I think she's trying to get in again, get in and wake him up from within. I appeal to your own conscience, sir, before Polixenes, the freaking catalyst of all of this. So remember that the attitude she might have for Polixenes at this point, how much is that going to come through? It's up to you as the actor. Before Polixenes came to your court, how I was in your grace. She's reminding of him of where she stood with him, how I was in your grace. To be in someone's grace? Grace, look it up. It's a good word. Grace, poise, kindness, graceful, honorable. How I was in your grace. How merited to be so. If you're merited at something, you're praised for it. You're risen for it. And merit is a good thing. How merited to be so. You know, how lucky I was to be in your grace. And again, that could be another afterthought. She didn't have to say that. How I was in your grace since he came with what encounter so uncurrent. But again, she doesn't. Shakespeare doesn't. It has the extra bit in there. How merited to be so. She's kind of adding on to reiterate in a new way. Do you see? It's so, so good. There's never the same thought twice. There's a reason she says how merited to be so, and it's probably because he's not letting her in, or something maybe in his response makes her say how merited to be so. Maybe she feels like she is getting in, so she wants to remind him again how merited I was to be in your grace by everyone, by me. You know, it's beautiful, so beautiful. Since he came with what encounter so uncurrent, since he came with what an encounter with such, let's look up encounter, with such an arrival, I would say, an unexpectedly faced with or experienced something hostile or difficult, meet someone unexpectedly. So that's interesting, actually. Encounter for me, see how it's so important to look up these words. Encounter to me meant meeting. But actually, the true definition of encounter is unexpectedly meeting. He's come with such, with what encounter so uncurrent, with what an unexpected arrival so uncurrent. And again, if something's uncurrent, it's not riding the current, it's going against that. It's not relevant, it's fighting against it. I have strained to appear thus. I have been strained. She's been pigeonholed into this box that doesn't fit her. appear thus. If one, and I think the intonation there should be slightly different to how I did it before, but we'll do it in the second read. Have strained to appear thus, like this, or like the like I'm being accused of. If one jot, I love this bit as well. If one jot beyond the bound of honor, or in act or will that way inclining. If one jots beyond, so if one jot is like a note, isn't it? Like you jot something. Oh, I just looked up videos. Hang on. Let's just look up jot. And then I can see there's some comments. I'll have a little look. Who else is here, by the way? Because I can see a few more people on, but I want to check, because I wanted to speak to Rodney if he's here today. I'm emailing him later. But yes, we encounter different meaning when we look up words. Beautiful, Ernest. Love me some crime drama. So semicolons are added. So sometimes, Ryden, depending on what edition of the book you have. So I've got the first folio in my cupboard. I've got this edition of the complete works. And I've also got maybe 3 other editions of prints of Shakespeare's work. Depending on the editor and, the format, who's edited it together, some of the punctuation and the words can be completely different, because it's kind of up for interpretation. And so it's really important to remember sometimes like colons might become exclamation marks or full stops, and that's going to transform the way you say something, isn't it? So always, whenever I normally put it on the blurb, actually, always look up different versions. If you Google it, that's not the definitive version. In fact, I wouldn't recommend using the internet usually to get your scripts from. I would recommend using the Royal Shakespeare Company, because they are the people that act Shakespeare and usually kind of have a bit more of a clue about these things. And their edits are usually a lot more conducive to how an actor should act these things, or would act these things, and getting more of the drama out of the text. Whereas a scholar who just like, yeah, I think it, who sits at a desk and is like, oh, I think a full stop works there fine. Well, does it? No, I think actors and directors and people who are creatively, emotionally attached more and can invest in their work have a better idea about what punctuation should be where, personally. So, yeah. They won't just literally add it in willy-nilly, but whether there was something in the first folio or like the first print of it, they might change it, or it's a question. It's up in the air. So yeah, always look up different versions, and I do recommend getting a few British publications of it, or checking the Folger Library, which is Folger Library, which is the American Institute of Shakespeare, which is good as well. So. Marriage to be so, and characters. If one jot, we were looking up jot, weren't we? Write something quickly, a very small amount. If one tiny amount beyond the bound of honor, so outside of honor, which is what she's talking about here, isn't she? For the latter half, at least, more or less. If I've gone outside of the realms of my honor, if I've overstepped 1 iota, or in act or will, that way inclining, or if any of my actions, or if I've ever willed myself to step away from my honor, then hardened be the hearts of all who hear me, everyone else, then let your hearts be hard. If your hearts are hardened, you are cold, you are like a rock, you're impenetrable. You can't get through. So she's saying, if that's the case, then let your hearts be stone of all who hear me. So everyone that hear me, then fine, turn against me. And my nearest of kin cry fie upon my grave. Her nearest of kin is Leontes. And then my nearest of kin, the person I care about the most, who I love the most, then let them cry fie upon my grave. And phi as well. Actually, I'm not going to bring that up because it's in a lot of the lives I've done. Look up phi. Figure out what that means for you. Ryden says, I was actually looking at my local bookshop for RSC versions, which is weird because I don't read at all and don't own any other books besides study Bibles and accordances. Impenetrable, like Ramesses. Great, thank you. So have a little look and get some charity shops often have them in. I found a complete works actually in my local charity shop, which I didn't buy, but I'm probably going to go back and buy because it's a different version that I don't have that I want. So there we have it. Exclamation mark at the end. Yo. Exclamation mark. Cry fire upon my grave. There is something else here. Passion. Maybe the anger. Maybe the just dismissive hopelessness of this. The whole fudge it factor. Really, really interesting. Go on, Ernest. Ernest says, okay, the biggest question I have about this play is, colon. What we're going to do is I'm going to answer this question, if I can. Give you my best shot. And I'm going to reread it again. Okay? And I'm going to act it a little bit more. But know that I'm not here to get this right. This is just an interpretation. This is a soft read. This is a playthrough. Ernest, I have been asking that as well. Because I kept saying A Winter's Tale, but then I've got The Winter's Tale in this edition. And then I think in one of my other ones, it said something else. And I was like, have I got this wrong the whole time? I don't know. I don't know, Ernest. I don't know. I always thought it was A Winter's Tale. And then I think when I kept saying, oh, we're doing A Winter's Tale, I was like, no, it's The. Because I saw that on something. Honestly, we're never going to know. I'll check my first folio. I can't today, but I'm going out after this. But I'll check my first folio and see what it says. But The Winter's Tale means it's the story of winter. A Winter's Tale means it's just another story. So I'd be tempted to say the story. Great. Let's read it again one more time. So, from the top, let's give it a whirl. This is Hermione, once more, as part of the Speech a Week, I nearly did it again, Speech a Week by William Shakespeare. By me, about William Shakespeare. Hilarious. Since what I am to say must be but that which contradicts my accusation, and the testimony on my part no other but what comes from myself, it shall scarce boot me to say, not guilty. Mine integrity being counted falsehood shall, as I express it, be so received. But thus, if powers divine behold our human actions, as they do, I doubt not then, but innocence shall make false accusation blush, and tyranny tremble at patience. You, my lord, best know, who least will seem to do so, my past life hath been as continent, as chaste, as true as I am now unhappy, which is more than history can pattern, though devised and played to take spectators. For behold me, the fellow of the royal bed, which owe a moiety to the throne, a great king's daughter, the mother of a hopeful prince, here standing to prate and talk for life and honour, for who pleased to come and hear? For life, I prize it as I weigh grief, which I would spare. For honour, 'tis a derivative from me to mine, and only that I stand for. I appeal to your conscience. I appeal to your own conscience, sir. Before Polixenes came to your court, how I was in your grace, how merited to be so. Since he came with what encounter so uncurrent, I have strained to appear thus. If one jot beyond the bound of honour, or in act or will that way inclining, hardened be the hearts of all who hear me, and my nearest of kin cry fie upon my grave. There you have it. So you see how that was a lot more, I was being a lot more playful and mindful of the situation. That first read was extremely cold, and that usually is the case. But do you see how much more there can be done with it? And that was me not even going far with like dynamics. And I would have gone a lot quieter when I'm talking to him. I might have taken some steps forward, but for camera, it's different, right? There's so much that can be done with it and played with it. Ernest says, I know she is supposed to be a young woman, but I see in my mind's eye a 35-year-old Meryl Streep. But 35 is young. That is still young. And I absolutely think she would be around that age or maybe even a bit younger. However, I'm just a bit opposed. As someone who watches lots of drama school auditions and young actors try and do this speech, you just don't quite have the gravitas and the grit yet and the life experience to get your teeth into it. Do you know what I mean? So if you are watching this as a young actor and thinking, I want to do it, practice it. But for a drama school speech, I think it's just a bit of a no-go for me. But up to you, your auditions, you know. Ernest says, dressed in shabby clothes, malnourished, yet with an inner strength, strong timber in her countenance. I am pleased that I see more in her character than I did before this reading. Good stuff. Wow. And this is it. People are always like, Shakespeare's women, you know, they're women of the time. They're so weak and boring. You clearly don't know what you're talking about if you ever say that. Ryden says that was like stern, but not imposing or cold, like the last read. Interesting. I liked it though. Cool. Exactly. And that's me. That's my take, Ryden. Like that's my natural countenance. Like I have quite a directness in the way I talk. I'm quite well articulated, so it can come across a little bit sharper. And that's something I'm aware of as an actor. But if I was going more into that, like I did recently, it's I mean, in fact, I did record it. I'll see if I can put it up. Oh, I mentioned it to Ernest, actually. There is a softness and a weakness that can come out then, so that later, as we work through the rest of this scene, we get more of the sternness in there. But that being said, everybody is different, and maybe Hermione is a bit sterner, and maybe it is a little bit more, but I do think there needs to be more emotion there, but, you know. All of that said, we're going to come back to this scene next week, so we're going to run onto Leonte's bit, and onto the other chunk of Hermione before the final chunk of Hermione, which is the famous speech that she makes, Sir, spare your threats, the bug which you would frighten me with I seek. We're going to do the other bit in the middle, because that's a bit that I haven't looked at as much, and I want to get it down, because I love it. Wow, I'm so glad I got into this. This is awesome. I'm really good, Ryden. Welcome to the party. If you want to join my newsletter as well, Ryden. In fact, are you the guy on Instagram? Yeah, anyway, make sure you sign up to my newsletter if you haven't. I'm just currently fixing that because I've had some issues with MailChimp. I'm using a new platform, which I'm sorting out today. So you'll get my newsletter today. And yeah, I'm really excited about this. Yes. Oh, thanks, Ernest. Yeah, Ernest is a regular, and there's another couple that come on often. Well, one in particular that comes on often. Ryden, so you're part of a welcome family of Shakespeare lovers. Yep, you messaged me. Yes, it was you. Right, I've just connected the dots. I thought you were two separate people. Hilarious. So we're changing from MailChimp, Ryden, and I'm going to send it all out. So I've got your email, I think, but I'll add you. Lovely to see you all. I'm off to the theatre tonight, guys. I'm going to go see As You Like It by Northern Broadsides, which are a fabulous company based up north. I'm going to go into Leeds now and get ready for that. And I'm so excited. I'll no doubt be talking about that a little bit on my social media. And yeah, this is actually the first piece of theatre I've seen in 3D, like in real life, since COVID. Can we just have a minute? It's been too long. It's been too long. I was meant to see some stuff in London, but it didn't happen. Anyway, I'm going to dash. It's been a pleasure to see you all. I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for being on live. And if you are watching this back, mwah. And Rodney, if you watch this back at any point, I really hope yesterday went well. I didn't watch it live, but I'm going to watch it back at some point this week, and I'm really excited to see your work. 3 Women Playing Night Bloom. Fantastic. You went on Sunday. Ooh. Who wrote that? Email me. Let me know. I'll have a little look. And your theatre opens as well. Amazing. Spreading the theatre love and spreading the theatre bug. I will see you all next week for the next chunk of this scene. Have a lovely rest of your day. Stay safe, and I will see you on the flip side. Ciao, ciao.